You will have seen that article some of you will have seen the article in the Workshop Guardian, and I know people have commented on it to me as well. I have to say, that article that went in the Workshop Guardian was for information purposes. It wasn't a personal position on me. If you actually read it, it tells you all the issues around fracking and everything else as well. I've met both the parish councils, both here in Harthill and also in Wales as well, and several individuals have been to my surgery as well. I've met them. And I've answered emails as well in relation to that. Let me nip on very quickly. Some of you will know that there was issues around. I was making inquiries about the Coal Authority and about water courses and what's happening. The reply I got back after them saying it's got to be an FOI was one. The latest one they gave me was on Maltby in 2013, was when Maltby was closing. I've contacted them again, and I want to see if they've got any ones for Kipping Park, which is clearly the area where they were mining in this area anyway. That's going to be in their archives. So, I've looked for that now. The other issue I've talked about was if there was any surface movement, if there was any damage. I'd asked them initially about whether the coal mining subsidence bill would be in an area that would cover that. The answer to that is no, it wouldn't. But I got a good paper from the House of Commons Library, and where the compensation would come from, if that was the case, would be from this shale well fund that's being talked about. This was talked about in 2015 and again last year. They went out for consultation on this. You've heard the Prime Minister said somebody might get X amount and everything else, household or whatever. They went out for consultation. That consultation ended in October of last year. They've not published any outcome from that consultation at this stage. So I'll just bring you up on that one. Only other two things very briefly now. One was in relation to Rotherham Borough Council. You'll know where the situation lies at this stage. It is with them, I think, waiting for a decision from the Planning Committee. I have seen the correspondence that you've sent to both Rotherham Council and to the Secretary of State as well about the campaign belief in terms of the environmental impact and everything else. I've also been in touch with the Environment Agency, which is actually, I found out, the Yorkshire one, or the one that we're in contact with, is based at Sheffield Business Park, looking at the issues, because they're a party to any planning developments that they are. In fact, Stevenson, who contacted me about the situation with them, sorry, I haven't got this. He went into some detail about what he will and will not be doing. And I asked him if the Environment Agency were prepared to come and meet, and they are, but it wouldn't be at a meeting like this. They're prepared to come. They said that initially they'd come along and consult me and tell me what, from their perspective, what was likely to happen. I asked them if I could have at least one person with me from the objectors, and he said, well, find out what the objectors are objecting to, because he's quite prepared to bring more people down, the experts that he's got. This guy, he does it overall, but the expert that he's got. And he's agreed in principle to have a meeting in my office in Dinnington. I've heard this is a way that we'll get further information in relation to what's going to happen. So I will liaise on, obviously, with the leaders of the campaign. So we'll get that in the diary pretty quick. Hopefully we'll get them down as well. But we'll need to be a bit more specific in terms of what areas we want to talk to them. And I don't think they're going to be wanting to talk about damage to hedgerows and bird life and things like that. But that's something we could sort out and hopefully get some agreement with them. And as far as anything else, the only other thing I brought on that was their leaflets that, I don't know if you've seen them, the leaflets that they've got in relation to their responsibilities on fracking. Have you seen this? Because there's two leaflets, it's on their website, I've copied them anyway, and this is what they're responsible for as well, because they are a part and parcel of the planning, so I'll leave that with you. I say it is on there. I've got the address that you can go on. I've been on their site, there's actually the planning application that's in front of Rotherham Council at the moment. So they are a party to it as well. I'm not going to go any further now than that. Obviously, if you've got questions of me about what I've been doing or what I intend to do, I'm here to answer them. But that's a sort of an update as far as I can see. The council side of it all, as I say, I'm not sure when that will take place. The issue about the environmental impact assessment you're very familiar with this first stage allegedly doesn't need that, but quite clearly it does. And reading what the Environment Agency is saying, it's going to be a lot deeper than just Rotherham Borough Council coming to a decision. So I'll sit down with that, Chris, and if you want to ask questions, that's fine.
Well, we'll kick off. Obviously, we've had some pre-planned questions. So, Chris has got the first one to ask Kevin.
I'll stand up so everybody can hear. Kevin, you previously voted to support fracking by votes in Parliament. Has your views now changed? And if not, surely you must be at odds with the party policy?
Well, you see, everybody's making an assumption that I said in that article that I support fracking, and I want to tell you that I didn't say that. I've not said that I support fracking, and I dispute that with anybody in here. What I've decided to do in view of the issue, and I know it'll fill bigger rooms than this if it develops any further, is to be able to have a dialogue with all sides in relation to what is not going to happen and potentially affect your lives. And that's the position that I'm in. You know what the Labour Party's position was to ban fracking, but we didn't win. Now the situation is, as you all know at this stage, the early planning application on it is going through without even a vote by councillors in Rotherham. And I just feel that it's important that my position is that I can talk. I have met INEOS in Parliament, along with other organisations who have been opposing them as well. I'm not, and I've been to meetings at the all-party fracking group, but that's disappeared. We've not had a meeting with that for must be 4 or 6 months nowadays because of the election. But I will go along to them, and I'll come back, and I will report to you what I'm finding. And I want to be able to be in a position to be able to talk to all sides on this, so I can inform you. We can all put our hands up and say we're against fracking, we can all go home. But that does not going to stop it going away. And I said this when I came in here to talk to the parish council. And we need to have a dialogue with all sides to find out exactly what they are proposing. I've said in that article, and I've said to the parish council as well, this is a new innovation in the UK. It's coming with a lot tougher environmental regulations than they have in the US, and let's see how it plays out.
Sorry, but just to be clear, what is your position on fracking in Hartlepool at the moment? Do you agree with it at this point in time or not? From the information you have.
I am in here to help you in what you're opposing in Hartlepool and to get to the truth of what's being proposed here in Hartlepool. Right? And I'm talking to all the sides in this debate, and I will remain to talk to all sides. And I'll come back here if you want me to on a bi-monthly basis or whatever and report back what my findings are and what I found out. And that's what I want to do.
But surely you've got a view of what kind of community you want to create.
I don't want to have a view that's going to stop me having dialogue with organisations to find out what they're proposing.
No, but it's very simple. If you want sustainable energy, do you want to invest in a bridge fuel like fracking, or do you want to invest in renewable energy? It's a very simple debate, and you surely have got a view if you are engaged with this on a daily basis in terms of what kind of community you're trying to create.
Could I ask you to read the article that was in the Workshop Guardian 3 months ago? Because that was in that article that I put in.
Okay.
It was my article, but it was a balanced article for want of a better expression.
Thanks for that. We'll move on. We have got lots of questions, so I don't want to keep on, harping about the same topic. We've got another question from Claire about listening to Hartlepool's concerns.
Yeah, Claire's not here, so I'll do the question before.
There we go.
If I can just say, Kevin, a lot of these questions will probably be duplicated because, at the end of the day, people have got strong feelings and they want their sense to have a voice. So, we'll apologise up front for that. So the question from Claire is, if Kevin is truly to represent the views of his constituents, is he prepared to properly listen to the concerns from Hartlepool residents about the proposed testing site and raise these concerns publicly on our behalf?
That's what I'm here for. I've been up onto the site with members of the parish council who went to have a look after I met them. That's what I'm here for. That's what I feel my job is.
Okay, thank you. Phil Booth, there's a question about representation in Parliament.
Well, probably going to be a simple question, but, and it still is. But I think Kevin's probably said what it was going to say.
Can you speak up, please?
Yes, please. Right, as our representative in Parliament, Kevin, what steps will you take to assist us in our struggle to eliminate this threat to our local way of life? And what chance do you think we have in achieving this?
Well, I'll do everything that I said I was going to do. That's what I'm there for. That's what I was elected for, to look after you. You're the bosses in relation to this. I was elected to represent you, and I will do that. What I'm saying is I need to be able to have a dialogue with all sides in relation to Parliament, quite clearly. If there's any action in Parliament that is needed under those circumstances, you know, I would quite clearly take action. I would come back to you before that's the case. It's unlikely to be the case. The referral of the legislation that was quite a while ago now, it was national legislation about national infrastructure development and everything else. It wasn't specifically about one issue. You know, when you have a vote in Parliament, there's many things in that bill that you vote for or against. I say, I recognise that now, but what I'm here to do is to make sure I represent you and your feelings, and I think the best way that I can do that is to have a dialogue with all sides and to bring you information that you will need, in my view.
I know you touched on this question a little bit already, Kevin, but Sue, Sarah or Alice Colcliffe have got a question about substance compensation.
No. Well, let me say that, because I've mentioned it to yourself and one or two people, David Burley from Maltby KDC as well. And I was involved in the legislation about coal mining subsidies. And if there was going to be ground movement, I have to say, as an ex-coal miner, I find it difficult to see in terms of what we did when we took coal out, you know, 5-6 foot of it, and let it resettle, as it were. But I'm not sure, and I don't think anybody knows at this stage about whether there is ground movement or not. I wonder whether it be covered by that legislation. I'm told that it is not covered by that legislation. It's covered by this Shale Wealth Fund, which is all things to all people. I'm not going to say what some politicians have said about it. I've actually got a copy of the consultation paper in front of me here, but you can go online and find that. And as I said earlier, there's no outcome of that at this year. So any compensation, if there was damage, well, I have to say that. But I was talking specifically about ground movement, a lot wider issues than ground movement in relation to this.
Can I ask a clarifying question on that? These shale wealth funds that people will be compensated for as a problem, is that the same fund that's supposed to be for the benefit of the communities affected by them?
I think the answer to that is yes.
Right.
I went through the consultation paper today, but it closed in October and they're nowhere near taking a decision. When I did go to a meeting in Parliament, there's a lot of people there, there was more than INEOS there, there was about 2 or 3 of them who were looking at this as well. And one of them said, this has not been decided yet, because in that consultation paper there are implications for the companies in terms of what compensation they'd have to pay, not necessarily to individuals, but to the community. Or what is the community in terms of how do you interpret that? Because I've had discussions with INEOS as well. Because I'm not saying it should happen, but if it did happen, where would that money go to? And I'll say this, and you know my politics, I don't kid you on that. You'll have seen down at the advanced manufacturing plant, they've been putting a dual carriageway down to it in the last 12 months. When they first opened that up, and I was involved in the development of that, and from Open Acid all the way through. When they opened that up, they just put a single road in and out of the advanced manufacturing plant, and the money that the council, under Section 106, they improved West Watery Road, further down. That must be, what, a mile away from there? Something like that. They use that money for that, which is a nonsense in my view, because the money should have been used in the community. I'm assured that people are saying that if that does happen, that's all I'm saying, it wouldn't go to local authorities. There would be some other community organisation it would go to. But I have no idea what that means at this stage. And quite clearly, there's no agreement on this, else they would probably give it an outcome from the consultation. Should I take that one as well?
Yeah, I'm on the board of South Yorkshire Community Foundation, and we were told that we were going to be involved in the compensation and distributing it. Our chief exec has not been able to get hold of anybody at the company whatsoever.
No, and that is because there's, well, I assume, and I've not had any discussions other than that meeting, it must have been last year that I was in, when there was 3 of these organisations all saying we don't necessarily agree with the figures that's in this consultation here, which was a percentage of the profit coming out of it that would go into community funds. So, I mean, you can go online and have a read at that yourself, but they've obviously not, in my personal view, they've probably not got any agreement for how much it's going to be as well, and that's why they've not agreed or come with the outcome for that consultation. But it was October of last year when it was closed. Yeah.
A lot of the old buildings in Hartford are covered by JRB mining in case there's any subsidence or any problems with their properties. I'm one of those people, and my concern is that if INEOS go ahead and there is subsidence, there is damage, we're going to be in a battle because INEOS are going to be saying, well, it's JRB, they should have paid up. There's going to be some discrepancy there.
Well, I'm going to bore you to death now. I was a coal miner before I went into politics, and I was involved in the 1990 bill that went through Parliament, the coal mining subsidence bill, because before that it was just sort of paid out by the National Coal Board without any direction. And the rule of thumb at that time was that if there hadn't been any coal mining for the last 7 years under your house, then it's unlikely that there would be any movement for subsidence from coal extraction. So I would have thought that that sort of the time has lapsed in relation to that. But as I said earlier, when I asked the question about whether that subsidence damage would come from, because that was the National Coal Board funding, it would be a coal authority funding now. They said that no, it would come from this I can't remember the name of this shale well fund. But of course, we don't know what's going to happen in that. The consultation ended in October and have not reported. So again, I don't want to speculate and frighten anybody whether there'll be ground movement or not, but it looks like that's what they're saying. And when I say they, in this particular case, this is a House of Commons library and the research department in the House of Commons library, which is as good as you'll get independent-wise in terms of what will work. So that's what we're expecting. Any question?
Yeah. Lee sent a list through as long as his arm, so we're just going to take a couple from it.
Well,
which one do you want to ask, Lee?
Well, first and foremost, I'd like to ask you, would you represent us in Parliament asking for a requesting a moratorium on this technology? There's mounting evidence that says that it is bad for the environment, it is bad for people's health. The majority of reports that have been published of late are all showing all the bad sides, if you like, of fracking and all pollution and stuff like that. So other members of Parliament, whether it's Conservative or Labour, are voicing the concerns of their constituents. Only I think it was last week, there was a young Conservative MP who's just sort of down the road in the Derbyshire area. He spoke up about it in Parliament, and I'd like to ask you that question. Would you do that for us?
And the answer to that is yes. If you actually read the article that was in the Workshop Guardian, I said I'd made it clear that if exploration can't be carried out while staying inside acceptable environmental limits, then I will call for a moratorium, and I was keen to do that as well. You know, this is new stuff for the UK. This is not, I've seen America. They don't have environmental standards that we have in the UK. I've been out to steel and coal many years ago now, where they were open cast coal mining, we call it there, they call it strip, and they were just ripping the countryside up and just carrying on and leaving it, and just taking the coal out of the way. We've never done that 50 years ago, but my time, we've never done that. We've always laid down good environmental standards. If anything happens, that it will be replaced. And I think that is going to be a big issue for INEOS or anybody else, quite frankly. Meeting the standards that they're expected to do through agencies like the Environment Agency. We'll see.
Well, what I would say, I mean, if you look at the driller site, you keep showing the environmental agency supposed to monitor it. Well, the fact is that site's been leaking water. It said it was rainwater. It wasn't rainwater at all. It was the hit water as it's been drilling down, and it's leaking out, and it's going over the sides. And of course, they've got fracking crews in there, I don't call gold standard inspection sort of looking through a pair of binoculars at the beast place.
It's new in the UK, and they're learning lessons. They're learning lessons there now. And I would expect them to just go ahead. It's very simple as that. And if that is the case, they're picking up now over in Lancashire what is happening. I've not been there. I've not talked to anybody. I've talked to Cat Smith, who's the local MP from there, but I've not talked to anybody yet. And there's the Environment Agency. I would assume that they're learning lessons from what's happening on that side as well, and that's what we need to do. And it's what I will do. I'll ask the relevant questions to the relevant organisations on your behalf.
Okay. Next question is from Louise, but
Louise is not here.
So,
To be fair, I think Kevin has answered
the
the questions on the subsidence and whatnot. So do you want to move on?
yeah. Julian Morley. Is Julian Morley in? Yeah. Sorry, Julian. Sorry, Julian. You realise Julian back there, second name.
I'd like to ask Kevin a question specifically about the application that's here in Harthill, the application 0805. I know you've been to the site because I'm on the parish council and I'm on the site with Kevin. Having seen the site and having seen the access to it, firstly, do you believe that that's adequate for what's going to be done up there?
Well, yeah.
And if I'll finish the question, you can answer it at all. And another concern is that government planning guidance is that construction phase project of any planning application is not normally taken into consideration. It's not a material consideration, so it would be discounted. Is there anything that you can do as RMP to ensure that that loophole is not used to disregard the traffic that's going to be going up to Loska during the construction phase?
Well, I mean, it just looks... Well, you've seen it, and I asked earlier who took the photograph of the two vans that had collided, which you sent through a while ago. It looks extraordinary, to say the least, that you think you can get anything of any size up those lanes. I just got my car through. I don't know about anything else. And that, even if that isn't an issue for Rotherham Planning now, and I'd say I'm not in touch with Rotherham Planning per se, I get briefings from them now and again. I can see the future. That's going to be a massive issue in terms of wanting to do anything up there with the with the non-size of the roads.
Is there anything you can do to stop them saying that that's construction phase, therefore they don't have to take it into consideration?
Well, I am very happy to any questions that you've got. You've sent me through the letters that you sent down to Rotherham Planning, and also on to David as well. I'm very happy to ask any questions that you've got from me. If you send them to me, I will get them asked in the right place, hopefully, and take that issue on, because that's going to be one of many issues.
Is there anything you can do to get an extension on this planning consultation phase for us? Because with it being such a large development and such an important development for us as a community, to try and get all this together within the next two and a half weeks is a big task. And we feel it requires a greater duration of consultation period.
Well, I've got no power to do that. As a member of Parliament, I've got no powers to do that. Obviously, I've got dialogue with one of the agencies, the Environment Agency as well.
Excuse me, could you speak up, please? We can't hear you.
Sorry. Well, did you hear the question?
Yeah, I heard.
He asked whether I could go. Well, they say I've got no powers to tell them that they've got to, they've got to have a longer period of consultation than what they are doing at this stage. That's written down in regulations, and I'm afraid I don't have the powers to be able to turn around and say that. What I can do is ask both of the council and the Environment Agency. If that's what you want me to do, I will ask them. I'll write to them, and ask them if it can be extended because of the circumstances. But in the end, we need to get this down to exactly what powers that these two organisations have and what influence we can make in relation to their decisions. But, you know, I'm here to do exactly that.
On that, can I just ask a question about planning? I was always under the impression that if somebody wanted to build something or put something in place that you could see as a resident, you had to be written to and you had to be included in that planning process. Have I understood that right?
I'm not an expert on planning.
Because I don't live in Harthill. I've come today. I joined the group earlier this week. I live in Wales.
Yeah.
And I was quite mortified after being on your site that when I look through my bedroom window, I can see that field and I can see every drilling well and platform that's going to be put on there. My uncle lives in Killamarsh, and from his house he can also see that field. So if there's any way to add any power to a stay of a deadline, in my view, Rotherham Council or whoever's put this planning application in have not consulted with the correct people.
We had a meeting with Rotherham Planning. Their view was that they'd advertised it in the way that they needed to. They didn't need to write to, because nobody's actually bounding that site, as it were. So the only reason you have to write to them, that's right, isn't it, Chris? The only reason you have to write to them is if you are a physical neighbour of that particular field. They've put notices in the local paper, they've put notices on the footpaths around the village and other prominent locations, and as far as they were concerned, that's as far as they had to go.
Should they have to write to all local residents then?
No.
Certainly not all anybody on our road.
Press.
Yeah.
We are adjacent to that field.
And nobody on our roads had the
We've
letter.
not.
Postman actually said to me, yours is the only road that's not getting letters.
They were probably from Indians.
Do you have any sense that it might get turned down?
No. I don't know. They wouldn't. They're not going to tell us.
Can I just say, I spoke to Klein last week regarding the letters, because according to their process, it says that the residents were sent information, and I rang them up to say I haven't received anything, and I overlooked the site, and they said they don't send letters out as such because we're not, like you say, there's no neighbours actually on the direct site, and so they just do it by, like you said, by putting posters around the village, and that's adequate. But what they also said to me was, and I said, you're not giving us very long to get all this put together, and they said the 21st of July isn't the closing date. You can put objection letters in after that, and they won't be looking at it until the end of August.
Right, okay.
What they said, but obviously that was just my conversation with them.
I could clarify that for you. I'm quite happy to contact the council and ask
If you could,
at the timetable.
You're up next, Diane.
Okay then, perhaps you could clarify this at the same time with them. There's a lot of confusion, I think, in the village regarding who's cutting the hedges, who's cutting the verges, whose vehicles are actually escorting the big trucks and everything. One of the workmen actually told me that it was the highways department of the council that's actually escorting the vehicles out. The people cutting the hedges have got street pride, but they're working with INEOS as well. And I think there's just confusion. So, for example, Woodall Lane is closed at the moment, and nobody's having access other than INEOS vehicles to it. So, I think we just need some clarification. Are Rotherham Council actually involved in supplying vehicles to help them do this task, basically?
Can I add on to that? Because somebody told me that those vans that were all driving around are loaned to them from the council. What they said? Northgate. Northgate. So I think that answers.
So they're in collusion then?
Well, I can ask that, but quite frankly, I would not be very happy if it was the case that my council tax money was being used by a private company, quite frankly. But Northgate is a big, I mean, I pass a lot of them when I'm driving up and down to London. It is a big national, well, I think it's a national van hiring business, but no, not a problem, I can ask them as well. Now, tell me this, who normally cuts the hedges? Farmers. Yeah. Okay, that's all right.
Okay. Sorry, can we move on? we've got lots of questions. We'll come. I'll try and open it up.
Jason, it's just pertinent to what we've just been discussing. We just live opposite the main field where we'll be able to see it all, basically, if it happens. And there was, yesterday morning, the big white truck things were trying to get down, and there was a chap in a 64 plate Land Rover who didn't look part of INEOS. I don't know if he were part of the council. We have got the registration plate, but again it ties in with what Kevin is going to ask with the Rotherham Council. Really.
And
are they being assisted?
And have they got any right to close the roads and stop the public from going past? Because that's what they were trying to do yesterday.
Road closures are an issue. If they haven't applied for a temporary road closure, then they shouldn't be doing it.
Hartfield Lane yesterday, they blocked all the road there with the 3 trucks because we wouldn't let them get through the gates onto the field.
I rang the council yesterday and I've logged a report with the highways inspector. So I've got a reference number saying that they closed roads.
Okay.
But I'm waiting for them to reply.
Wendy,
Well,
do you have a question?
I do, but mine was very much concerned about the voting in the general election. And they want to agree with all the Labour Party policies and please support our constituents and decision in Parliament. This is not about being an outright guard. We have legitimate concerns regarding health and safety and quality of life. This proposal by us is not compatible with British law, and we have every right to a healthy and safe environment to live in and to supply people choose to live in a beautiful rural area. And I also, when I've looked into INEOS on the internet, it just come up and I put INEOS head office, and it comes up Switzerland. So immediately you think, what they're doing in Switzerland, why are they in Switzerland and not in the UK? So if they are registered in Switzerland, why are they issuing licenses to a company in Switzerland? Because you tend to think that's tax evasion. I know that's not the same thing as you're planning, but you know what I'm getting at.
You might think that I could possibly say. But no, I hear what you're saying. I'm not sure, to be honest. But
well, that's it. I'm not sure. But
no.
I'm just saying.
Can't hear you. Can't hear for that phone.
Who owns INEOS? He apparently owes the money revenue to this country. So why is he allowed to do business when he still owes money to this country?
Okay.
It's from Beverly.
Can we?
well, look, I hear what you're saying, and I've answered the question before. I'm here to represent you.
Well, I'll send it to you. You've already answered the question.
Deborah, your question on drinking water, agriculture and woodland pollution.
Okay. I just wanted to add something to that before. There was something you were saying earlier about a question that was asked earlier about how what are the benefits to this country of fracking and what are the disbenefits of it. And I was reading in The Guardian the other day that there's some money, taxpayers' money, £8 million being put into a large piece of research by the Economic Research Council, Economic Social Research Council, and another research council. Do you know about this? Well, there is.
No.
And basically, this huge piece of research, which I think will be starting in September, is likely to take a year. So that £8 million worth of taxpayers' money has gone into this research. Now, I think it might be good that we, in this village, and everybody else who's involved in the threat to being fracked, is involved in that research in some way. So I'm wondering if you can...
What is the research to do, exactly?
It's there to examine the benefits and whatever the opposite of benefits is. Well, disadvantages, disbenefits, the risks is probably the better word.
On fracking?
From fracking.
It's on the back. It's on the
UK.
back of earth tremors, isn't it? In the area where they're fracking in Blackpool.
It's a broad piece of research that's looking at health and well-being, all the way through to geology, archaeology, science, environment. It looks as though it's going to be incredibly wide-ranging.
I think the issue is if £8 million worth of public money is going into such a large research project, why are we allowing this steps at this stage to go ahead until that planning, until that research is undertaken.
Stop to it until we have the findings of the research, whether or not it's of benefit.
I can't put a stop to it. I'll have a look at that. I've written it down and I'll have a look at that and I'll get back to you.
And I suppose it comes back to delaying this planning application process, doesn't it? You know, we're all trying to get as long as stay as we possibly can to build up a better evidence pot.
I can't before the horse situation, but I'll look at that.
And as far as I know, it's been commissioned by the government. You know, that was my understanding of what I read. So I guess there's somebody beavering away. So I'm going to ask my question. It's just a question that's been niggling away at me for quite a while now, that there's some kind of a lack of internal logic to the notion that areas of outstanding natural beauty and triple SIs and areas where groundwater feeds into drinking water, that all of these areas will be protected from fracking and exploration. If that is the case, logic would say that this is an admission of the risk. So I'm just wondering if this is a discussion that's going on in Parliament at all, whether places like Harthill that aren't designated anything, but as you can see is very beautiful, is there that discussion of that admission of a lack of internal logic to that?
Well, not on the floor of Parliament. Obviously the place we should be having that debate is in the all-party group when these developers come in.
When they get back
and
together.
When they get back together. And question them about what's happening or not. I do recall somebody calling that it'd be all right fracking in the desolate north, I think.
We heard that. We heard it.
That's very much in my head.
Good.
Let me just say that.
I don't think we noticed it if it was in London. So much going on.
Sorry, keep.
How do we get a debate in Parliament then? Is it something about 100,000 signatures needed on what, a petition, a letter to you?
Well, yeah, I mean, in theory, I could apply for a debate, you know, because we have half hours, those at the end of the day, me and a minister. And I think there may be a relevant time that I'd want to do that about specifically what's going to be happening here.
Yeah.
What I want to do is to go through in detail about what is happening, what is happening with Rotherham, and also the Environment Agency and how their powers can protect you or not. Because if they say yes, but we can do this, but we can't do that, that may be an issue for central government. And the Environment Agency is paid for by us. You know.
How do we start that process? Is there anything we can do as a group?
Well, we will start and have a dialogue with the Environment Agency, hopefully pretty quick. I'm not booked to go away until late August. So I'm okay. I'm heading to the beach immediately. So hopefully 2 or 3 of you, and I'm only going to say that 2 or 3 of you, we can get an agenda agreed, what we want to look at, what they have responsibility for, which is in front of us, and then we'll have a meeting with these people from Yorkshire, and we'll go on from there. Okay.
Andrew, your question, please.
Yes, it was reported on the 7th of June that more energy was created from clean sources such as wind and solar and coal and gas. Why haven't we pushed the limits for more renewable energy?
Is this solar versus gas? I'm sorry.
No, it was solar and wind. It created more energy than coal and gas. So why are we pushing for more?
Well, listen, we should be. You know, I don't live in Maltby now. I moved because I lost my wife and I moved out of there. I had passive solar panels on my house in Maltby from the early 90s. I didn't get any grants for them. I put them on because, notwithstanding I'm a coal miner and I worked in fossil fuel, but, you know, I think that's very relevant. I'm the trustee of the National Coal Mining Museum. We had a presentation here. I can't tell you the detail of it. I've got it by the Coal Authority, who's looking around at how we can store energy from renewables and use it when you need to use it. As opposed to, you know, you have to use it at this, I don't mean in a battery, but looking at some major ways of storing, getting energy down, putting it into perhaps water, and then converting that energy back out of water into electricity when you have a demand for it.
there's all sorts of things that is potentially that we can do in relation to that area, and this is one of them. You know, that is one of them as well, and we need to do that. We've got the Oscar Common wind farm here now. I'm hoping that we don't lose the Petty Hill wind farm through HS2, but we'll have to wait and see about that, because it looks like 2 or 3 of them might be knocked down if HS2 goes through there. But there's plenty of areas, but technology is moving on all the time. And it's storing energy that's the important thing, and being able to use it when the demand is there. And that's one of the problems with renewables, that isn't the case. And you will see from time to time, you know, they're not turning, the wind turbines are not turning around, but when they are turning around and we're all in bed and not using electricity, we need to find a way of storing that and using it when we want. So if you've got any ideas, I'm not in business, but if you've got any ideas, let me know. I'll pass them on to people who might want to make it work.
We had a question from Julie Gibbons about personal views, and I think we've covered that to a degree, so I think we'll skip that one. Lee, you've got one on the US legislation. Second one? Second. Legislation passed by Parliament through loophole.
Oh, yes. Yeah, the legislation that was passed in Parliament has a real big get-out clause about what to do with waste. Wastewater is going to be a significant issue because it's contaminated with radioactive waste, heavy metals. It's not the sort of thing you can just treat. The water companies say they can't treat it. The INEOS have had, even for this sort of exploratory work, they're talking about dumping it in the sea, and doing all that kind of thing. And this loophole allows them, and I can see this happening if this technology takes off. There'll be a lot as these wells get used up. Oh, I know what we'll do. We'll do what the Americans do. We'll pump it all down there. And there's loads of evidence that suggests that it's causing a lot of earthquakes. A lot of earthquakes. Oklahoma used to have an earthquake every, I think, 20 or 30 years. I can't remember the exact figure now. Now they're having tens of earthquakes a month. So that is serious, and that's what could come from all of this. I know we're supposed to have better regulation, but you can see that there's going to be so much wastewater. They won't know what to do with it.
Well, you raise a very good point there, and that's quite clearly that's one for the Environment Agency. And again, when we have the meeting with them, hopefully that will be one of the things on the agenda, and they can talk about the management. And if there has been this leakage over in Lancashire, we can ask the questions about that as well, because the Environment Agency is over there overseeing that project.
Not we wasting a scarce resource to get another resource.
Sorry?
By using the water. I don't understand how we can waste such a scarce resource as water to do all this damage to get something else out. It doesn't make sense to me.
No, well, you know,
we're struggling to get water anyway.
No, I accept that. And you know, with leakages and everything else, we're struggling to hang on to it as well. But, you know, that's an issue that we're going to need to look at. And that will be an issue for planning, I would have thought. An issue certainly for the Environment Agency in terms of how this stuff is managed, if it comes along.
Can I just ask, on that point, Kevin, with the trouble that Theresa May is having at the minute.
What's that?
She's probably not well. Obviously, it didn't get passed in the Queen's speech regarding the permitted developments, extending that.
No.
What is your view in terms of where the Tory party will take fracking in the future? Do you think it's off the agenda because of things like Brexit?
Well, quite clearly, it's not off the agenda in as much as what's happening here. So you know, it's on the agenda to some extent. I'd like to know exactly what research they're going to do, you know, that's going to get it beyond this first phase that they're looking at here in Harthill. And I'm not too sure at all. I'll be perfectly honest with you about that. I think it would be foolish to say that it won't go ahead because of the situation in terms of Westminster now and not having a majority government. I don't see that that's going to stop it. What will stop it is if it doesn't meet the environmental standards that people would expect it to meet. And if it's not meeting in the rest of the world, there's lessons to be learned there, and maybe lessons to be learned from what's happening in Lancashire at this stage. I don't know.
I think there's lessons to be learned from what's happening in Ireland.
Well, no, that's fine, but we don't have that option.
All right, the DUP will sort it out.
But I went to there's like £8 million. Yeah, that's peanuts.
This tree.
Peanuts are what they've got.
Sorry.
My name's Rebecca, I live in Harton. The other thing that would stop it would that it wouldn't be profitable for anyone to continue. So that would stop it. And I read recently about the worry about methane escape during fracking, and that the American government had not held those organisations to account. If they did hold the organisations to account about methane release from the escape from these fracking wells, that it wouldn't be profitable enough for the organisations to continue.
Well, I mean, that's an obvious one for the Environment Agency, that one. You know, it seems, well, if they go ahead with this test run, they're going to go, well, I don't bore you to death with this. The deepest mining we've done round here was at my old workplace at Malton Colliery, when we were 1,000 metres down. That was the deepest we went. Kivick was much shallower than that, I have to say. These seams they're talking about for shale extraction are 3,000, between 3,000 and 4,000 pounds. I don't think they drill down there. I don't know what they'll find. You know, seismic tester's not going to tell them everything at all, and that's why they want to drill down there. If they find that there's nothing down there of any sort, it will. I've always felt, and I think you're absolutely right in this analysis, that if it's not profitable, they won't do it. And the big issue, in my view, is going to be around how people have to be protected from it. And there will be a cost to that. And that cost might make it a negative investment. And I don't know how you find that out until they've actually done it, or gone down and had a look at it. But anyway, let's wait and see. But the issues that you put, about methane leakage and everything else, I accept that is an issue. But you must remember that when I worked down Malton Colliery, there used to be methane all around me. I used to work it as a small percentage. It never got really high. They used to have to, obviously it was dangerous, as it were. So there has been human elements to this type of, to that type of gas anyway. And we've worked in and around that type of gas. So I don't think that's going to be something that stops it. But maybe ensuring that it can't leak, that might be an issue that's going to cost money.
Do you think that do you think that local authorities and national authorities have got the expertise to be able to manage and look after these projects? Because I don't.
Well, as you've seen quite recently, local authorities, haven't got the ability to do everything that's asked of them. Never mind something like this coming onto the agenda.
I think the other thing that we found out, no disrespect, probably a few years since you were down the pit, we found out that methane is much more potent in terms of a greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide.
Yes. Oh no, I know that.
So I would just wondered,
I
would
mean,
that still be the remit of the Environment Agency, or would the greenhouse gas emission that we're trying to reduce be the remit of another group?
Well, along with the water, that's another obvious one for the Environment Agency as well, because they are responsible for the environment.
So the point is, if we do put this drilling rig up and it's not economically viable, what about the scar it leaves when they've gone?
Well, no, I accept that. You could say that about lots of things that would be developed.
And I would think that if planning turns them down from Rotherham, they're going to appeal.
Well, that is an issue, and quite frankly, I'm not experienced in that. I'm not a planning lawyer. In the end, but there's extraordinary things happen in planning, and I have to say, it gets delayed, it gets shoved back, and everything else. When regulations, I think, it looked pretty clear that should or shouldn't go ahead, and all of a sudden it goes on for months and months and months because lawyers are arguing about it. In the end, you have to bring arbiters in on occasion. And these are just in and around house building, never mind anything like this. So where this goes, I'm not sure.
Yeah. How do you feel that
in your conducting themselves, to be honest?
How do I feel they're conducting themselves? Well, I have no experience about it here. I've seen some people's comments on email about what they're doing here, how they're conducting themselves. If you've got good examples where you feel that they are bullying, as is being put in emails to me, let me have them. And I will take them on. I'll take them up with Ineos. But I have no evidence myself, but let's see how it evolves.
Just like to give Joy the opportunity to ask a quick question.
This might be looking a little bit on the dark side in some respects. In past meetings you've mentioned jobs in connection with the fracking industry. Can I just compare two situations for you? Hinkley Point Power Station is being built mainly by a French company. Its proposed container village, as they call it, is huge. But to the South African company doing the work, it is nothing unusual. However, their senior technical officers are South African, but the workforce being used are UK nationals. Indeed, the containers are made by a company in Yorkshire. This foreign company is providing jobs and opportunities for us. Compare that to Ineos. We're only at the seismic testing stage, but already we see foreign workers taking over our roads with little or no ability to communicate with anyone, acting as though they take priority over residents. Why aren't UK workers doing these jobs? Are we so backward and unskilled as not to be trusted with the work? Or is it a case of once this is done, they will go home, wherever home is,
Poland,
with no comeback if things, I'll say Eastern European, if things go wrong? Ineos, when questioned, cannot answer straightforward questions such as how many will be employed on the site. Or can you offer reassurances that UK workers will take priority? The only thing that they seem to know is that by moving their headquarters to Switzerland, they will save an estimated £100 million per year in tax. You see, with no family silver left to sell, the Tories will sell whatever is under our feet. Going on to the planning application, I find it strange that South Yorkshire Police are already announcing what plans they have in place to cover protests at fracking sites, which this isn't even as far as that. Do they know something about the planning application that we don't? We don't have enough police now. Will they be just drafted in as they were in 84 and 85? Perhaps Ineos will provide policing, because we all know that they are advertising for ex-British and French military people for security posts, using a company with no declared assets and therefore no liabilities. In conclusion, I ask again, where are the guarantees on jobs? If this did go further down the line, is there any way that Parliament would be able to make companies employ British or UK workers first? Or will they just be allowed to advertise abroad like taxi firms do?
Where do you want me to start? Well, you've heard what's in manifestos anyway in relation to this. We're extremely conscious about the issue about British jobs as well. Let me say that would depend on contract and everything else. Whether that would be a matter for the local authorities or not, I'm not sure at this stage. I don't want to mislead you and say that I think it is or it should be. If they haven't got that power to do that, it's not of me telling you something different. But again, as I said earlier, that is something that you could well at least ask the planning authority or Ineos themselves in relation to that. If you want to put that in a small form, no, it's very relevant to ask that. In relation to South Yorkshire Police, let me tell you my view. I do obviously, I meet the police quite regularly. Not because I've done anything wrong, but I meet them quite regularly. I have spoken to them about this situation. The reason that as it were, I think they've been able to talk to you, but the reason they're looking at this is because of what's happening in other parts of the country in relation to fracking. Because it's quite clearly, if they're looking at budgets in 4 or 5, and I'm not saying this will happen, but if it was to happen, they're having to have effectively police forces stood nearby because of the issue of protesters, etc. So I don't want to go into that at this stage. I have no personal experience of that. But South Yorkshire Police are looking at it on that basis, and that basis only. And if you've got any questions for them, more than happy to ask those questions for you as well. I say I do meet them regularly. I do write to them from time to time with casework anyway. I see that your questions about South Yorkshire Police and housing overfracking is no different to my normal casework that I get.
It'd be nice to think that they would come out when asked for antisocial behaviour, not fobbed off with a number
not
and
sitting
nothing
here
else.
for 4 hours waiting for people to come and
I was
visit
going to
us.
say, I don't know whether anyone ever came in.
No.
Frankly.
Well, but that, anyway, look, if there is issues in this village with policing, if this develops, right, and I keep saying it, I'll make sure that we do get the police out and come and talk to you as a parish council as well, and let you know exactly.
We talk to them on a regular basis, and they promise us the earth.
Yes.
And we get nothing.
Well, they're just very conscious of this fact because of what's happening in other parts of the UK, because of the implementation of this.
Can I just say,
yes.
I think that this just sums it up. They've got a plan in case they have to do, in case we do protest. They've got a plan in case there's a problem with the vehicles and they have to turn them back. They haven't got any plan, as far as I'm aware, if there's a disaster, if there's a chemical spill or a major disaster on that plant. They haven't got anything in that application at all. But all the negatives, the things that are unlikely to happen, they've got plans for. But there's nothing in that plan application regarding the safety of us lot.
No, well, you raise a good point there, and I suspect the police wouldn't be directly responsible for that. It would be either the planning authority or the Environment Agency.
But if you're a business, you have to do risk assessments, you have plans in place. You know, most shopping centres have plans if there's a major disaster. We could have a major disaster in front of our faces and there's nothing in place to deal with that at all.
That will be, those types of questions will be part of the planning application if it goes further from where we are now, but we don't to try and second guess that at this stage. All I say to you is write your thoughts down. I mean, we'll do it through we'll do it through one or two people on the committee here, so that I can then write on to all these different agencies about the issues that have been brought up here tonight. And that, as I said earlier on, that's what I'm there for. You're the bosses in relation to this. I've been elected to look after your interests, and I will do that as best I can.
I think on that, can we try and set up a fortnightly meeting?
Or by email, yeah, absolutely. So no, it's unusual for me to be up. I was doing HS2 last night and this tonight. It's unusual for me to be up midweek, except of course during August,
right, okay.
Which I might be going to look to catch a bit of sun at some stage, but also some parts of October as well. I'm free. But we'll just put it in the diary. I mean, Friday nights are better for me and awful for everybody else. I found that out over the years. Everybody's got something better to do on Friday. Come and listen to a politician talk, you know. So we'll work it in anyway, and as best I can. We'll work it in. So, you know, it might be 2 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon if Rotherham are at home. Okay? So we'll see what we can do.
Yeah, have we got any other questions that are burning?
The Environment Agency is responsible for rivers and air and God knows what all over the country, and they've been cut down in size, and we've heard a lot of reference to the Environment Agency and the importance of their role. Is there any way that we can put pressure on them to focus sufficient resources? Because if they do their normal thing, it'll be a visit every 6 months.
Well, first of all, let me say that, and this is, I'm not talking about Environment Agency that I've been chatted to in the last few weeks, but the public sector is very good at telling politicians if it's short of things in terms of money or people to actually do jobs or anything else. So I'd be amazed if they felt that it was difficult, you know, to be able to do what they want to do, that let us know about that. And obviously I have a voice in Parliament to let other people know about that as well, if that is the case. I wouldn't try and second guess it now, but, you know, if they are, I've got a lot of work to do because of this initial application. I would want to make sure that they're funded to do it. I'm sure you would as well. It's your agency, it's your taxes that are being spent. And that's what I will do.
I think tonight, Kevin, we can sense the frustration that we've all got and the concerns. And hopefully you're going to be able to, you know, take that back and represent us in the ways that you've discussed tonight. But you know, it's a very emotive issue, and you know it affects not only the environment and people's outlook on looking on the rig. It has massive health issues, and it also, you know, is beginning to have an effect on house prices. So you know, hopefully you can take away from this meeting just how passionate we are, and you know we need representation at the highest level to get things through.
Well, let's start with that. We'll agree an agenda with the Environment Agency. We'll meet with them there in these early days of this lot to find out exactly if it goes beyond what's in front of the Robin Borough Council now. What are the issues? We need to sit down and talk about that, and so we can get agreed agendas and get to know what may or may not happen.
We need to move as fast as possible on things. INEOS are moving at lightning speed. You know, so I woke up one morning suddenly, they've cancelled all these applications and everything, and straight in. Seismic testing, I can't believe it. You know, within a matter of a couple of weeks, we're inundated with it. Now, if this planning application gets to go ahead, I don't know where we're going to stand with it, because straight away, at 6 o'clock next morning or 5 o'clock next morning, they'll be drilling. And I don't know what to say really. I don't know if there's anybody here from the police, but we've got to get up there and
I would have, there's 3 months building. I would have thought that making noises at 6 o'clock in the morning is probably not something we get planning permission for. You know, if you live in East, if you live near a big supermarket, their hours can be restricted in terms of when they can deliver to supermarkets, things like that, because of the potential of disturbance in the local community. But not to we won't try and second guess it now. We'll sit down with the authorities and we'll go through it with them in detail. That's what we need to do.
Should they be allowed to work weekends? Are they allowed to work weekends?
I have
with
no
this testing
idea.
that they do in a moment. Is it?
My instinct on that is that they get double time for something.
Well, you're saying about restricted working certain hours. The threat that was mentioned the other day was not letting them in the field to do the testing on. They could come back on Saturday when the carnival's on.
Well, I've no idea about that, to be perfectly honest.
The planning department puts what hours they can work, so it can be up to planning to say you can only work, start at that time and finish it at that time. So it'll be done at planning.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it will be done.
The application is for 24-hour drilling, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
The plans are going right now at 2, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, the seismic survey activity can go on from 6 till 7. 6 till 7, Monday through Saturday.
I think a good example of that is when
That's been approved. That's been approved.
The problem is, it's the peripheral work they do in terms of the patrols, isn't it? That is the other issue.
Why do we need patrol? Why patrol?
Well, because there's been people tampering with their equipment. Sorry.
Jason, Gordon Brand denies that they go out during the early hours of the morning.
Well, we've got evidence that
He
they have.
will deny anything you ask him.
Yeah.
Can I just say?
Well, we've got photographic and we've got traffic surveys, in fact.
When I spoke to INEOS the other day, the reason I spoke to them was because I'm fed up with them constantly going back and forth past my house. And planning said that he must have looked at some information and he said, let me have a look. And he said, what INEOS have said, most days there would be 12 vehicles or 12 vehicle movements down that road. I stood this morning and within an hour there was 12 vehicles gone by. Yeah. And they're just non-stop. And this is going to be for 6 months and this is only the seismic testing. And it's horrendous. We can't even get out down the lanes, it's horrendous.
So they're feeding us all a pack of lies, really.
Yeah, just total over.
Can I ask, as they're doing seismic surveys all from down here towards Mansfield, have you been in touch, or has any of your other fellow MPs had your heads together?
Yeah, we've exchanged emails about the situation, yes. It clearly has implications for other parts of South Yorkshire and North Derbyshire as well, but not this early stage. this early stage is different. So we'll keep that dialogue up, clearly. There'll be more than one voice.
I'm going to give the gentleman in the blue shirt at the back the last question.
About the delivery of many building sites have deliveries restricted.
Sorry?
Many building sites have deliveries restricted due to school hours.
Yeah.
I just wondered if the school was close enough to have any influence over the hours that they could have vehicles accessing. I know it's a different direction, but still.
I really don't know. I mean, I'd have to go back and say you've got to be a planning lawyer to answer that, you know. But, you know, we do employ planning lawyers at Rotherham Borough Council. So if we've got questions like that for them, you know, they're the ones we should be putting the questions to.